Hey, welcome back to the channel. I want to share some other cool books, perhaps not so well known. As some of you have known from watching my channel or who have been watching my channel for a while, I'm also a big fan of mystery series and crime writing. And I have an interesting and very cool police procedural novel set in Japan for you today. And that is the Superintendent Otani series, written by James Melville. Now, James Melville was the pseudonym, one of the pseudonyms for Roy Peter Martin, a British writer born in London, England, and who spent a lot of time posted as a high-ranking member of the British Council. In Japan, he was posted in Kyoto from 1963 for many years and entertained many British celebrities and famous authors and personalities, as well as got to know in very good detail and understanding Japanese culture and the Japanese, I guess, general mindset of that time and then he was later posted in Tokyo in the 90s, I believe, 80s and 90s, when he started writing this series of 13 novels, police procedurals, steeped in, without by any means being boring or tedious, steeped in Japanese cultural life and exploring different aspects of Japanese culture and the clash of that when foreigners get involved with crime in Japan. So now, James Melville was born in 1931 and passed away in 2014. Now, besides writing these 13 Superintendent Otani novels, he also wrote 3 novels in the Miss Seaton series. Now, I have some Miss Seaton books here, but not any by the ones that he wrote under the pseudonym Hampton Charles. He wrote Miss Seaton by Appointment, Advantage Miss Seaton, and Miss Seaton at the Helm, all published in 1990. Now, Miss Seaton is kind of I guess you could call her, not a knockoff per se, but a type of that subgenre of elderly spinster sleuths. You know, you have, of course, Agatha Christie's Miss Marple as the forerunner of that, and then you also have Miss Silver, Patricia Wentworth's Miss Silver series of mysteries. And Miss Seaton mysteries are a little more comedic, I guess, but still fun, with some really cool zebra book editions put out with fun covers. Now, he also wrote Martin, James Melville's real name, Roy Peter Martin. He wrote The History of the Japanese Imperial Family, The Chrysanthemum Throne, which was published in 1997. But I'm here today to talk about his Superintendent Otani mysteries. Now, Tetsuo Otani is superintendent of the Kobe Prefectural Police, and his area covers not only Kobe, but he ends up in Kyoto, and sometimes in Tokyo, of course in Osaka and Nara upon occasion. And he's assisted generally, he always has his wife Hanae kind of supporting him at home. But at work, his chief work colleagues, are 2 different types of inspectors. There's Ninja Noguchi, who's kind of a stocky, brusque, older, middle-aged man whose nickname Ninja is from his ability to meld into the criminal underworld of the Kansai region there seamlessly without causing any ripples. The other younger inspector, Jiro Kimura, called Kimura through most of the books, is a dapper young man who's infatuated by Western culture and doesn't wear traditional Japanese clothing, but tries to dress in whatever the trend and style is of Western clothes for the period that's filtered its way through Japan in this time period, the late 70s through the 90s. And Kimura is usually the one, because he speaks some English, he's the one who fair amount of English, and he's very interested in Western culture and foreigners. Gaijin, of course, as they're known, or Gaikokujin officially. And he's usually the one dispatched to interview foreign suspects or persons of interest in various cases that Otani encounters. Now, there were 13 Superintendent Otani mysteries written. So I have 9 books out of the 13 in this series. I have the first 7, I believe, or the first 8, and then I have the 10th, or no, I have the first 7, and I have the 9th and 11th, I think. So you'll see a Superintendent Otani mystery there, and sorry for the yet another stupid sticker I have to remove. Now let me read the back blurb of this first book. I won't read the others, but I'll just give you a sense of the kind of police procedural story you have. Now, most of these are murder mystery investigations, but they do delve sometimes into, of course, the Yakuza, the gangster, the mob, the Cosa Nostra of Japan here. And there's suspense and thriller elements as well. In one of the books, Otani's wife, Hanae, is kidnapped, and the race against time to rescue her. And then there's also usually some guest characters. This one, in fact, has a list of characters. I always love when mystery books have list of dramatis personae. But let me talk a little bit. I'll read you a little bit of this back blurb here to give you a sense of the feel of these mysteries. So, introducing Superintendent Otani. Tetsuo Otani is superintendent of the Hyogo Prefectural Police. Hyogo is the prefecture that Kobe, the city of Kobe, is in. Kobe is the sister city of Seattle, by the way. He and his adoring wife Hanae enjoy a comfortable life. Sake in the evenings as he tells her about his cases. Gentle teasing on her part about his precious Rotary Club. Yes, Otani is a member of the Rotary Club. That kind of gives him some useful connections when he's solving cases. Ceremonial visits from their newly married daughter and her fine young husband. Murder is a rare crime in Japan. This is true. This is one of the reasons why I love living here. And Superintendent Otani's current case is most unusual. At the Chishoji Zen Study Center in the Misty Hills near Takahashi, 5 foreigners have gathered to learn and practice the ancient teachings of the Zen masters. And one of them, an Irish Catholic priest, has been found dead in the snow, murdered by someone at the sacred Buddhist temple. Was it the long-haired Danish hippie, the middle-aged Jewish lady from England, the serious American girl with the shaved head, her lover, the spunky, outspoken black girl from New Jersey, or, perish the thought, the Japanese Zen master himself? Sorting through the strange customs of these very strange people, Superintendent Otani must find the killer in a mystery that's very British, very Japanese, and very elegant. Now, one of the key things that makes these books so fun is James Melville, or one of the things that makes these books so fun to read and so interesting is that Roy Peter Martin's, James Melville, pseudonym of course, Roy Peter Martin's experience in Japan. He seems to really get the Japanese way of thinking, Japanese culture, and he puts that through in all of these books, so you really get into the various characters' minds. Otani's mind, his wife Hanae's mind, and of course his chief investigators, Ninja Noguchi, and especially Jiro Kimura, the more Western-friendly inspector. And most of the cases involve, at least in an indirect way, Westerners, foreign visitors to Japan. One of them is even partially set in London, as Otani's daughter has moved to England, and so they go to Cambridge, I believe, for some sort of conference, and a murder occurs there, which has ties back in Japan. But most of the books are set in Japan, of course. We have, and a lot of these are in pretty good condition. Of course, they're not so old. They were published in, these are editions published, first editions published. This one was in 1982. The Chrysanthemum Chain is, I believe, the second novel in the series. Yes, and that was originally published in 1980. This version is 1982. A tall, blonde Englishman is murdered in a traditional Japanese home. Then I have number 3, A Sword of Samurai. It's a really excellent novel, this one, set during an earthquake, and while being driven around by his driver, because Otani doesn't drive himself, he's driven around by a police constable attached to him, and his regular driver anyway, and they stop off at a kind of office near the port, Kobe Harbor, and discover a dead body inside, and that leads him into an interesting investigation. which of course has some ties to foreigners, right? A visiting businessman is murdered on the Japanese waterfront. I believe, sorry, it was a foreigner who was murdered. So again, a lot of these cases involve foreigners, which of course allows James Melville or Martin to kind of talk about the cultural differences and of course Otani's view on Westerners. The ninth, Netsuke, this is the one in which Hanae is kidnapped at one point and gets quite tense as the book goes along. A Filipino pleasure girl is murdered in a Japanese honeymoon hotel, a love hotel. One of the fun things of these novels, this series, is that Otani and his wife, and Otani is a middle-aged guy, probably in his early 50s, and his wife Hanae is around that age, but they have a very fun relationship and sexually active relationship. It's a really nice depiction of a marriage, even though it doesn't feature predominantly in the books. It's a good section, a good part of the books does include Hanae's involvement, either when she's traveling with Otani or him coming home and relating the case to her. Then we have the fifth, is that right? The fifth one, Sayonara Sweet Amaryllis. Fun cover there. They have a lot of these with the shoji screen, the rice paper screens that are often used in a house. In fact, I have some in this room right here. A British madrigal singer is murdered at a posh embassy party. And of course, Roy Peter Martin would know about posh embassy parties, working at an embassy in Kyoto and then later in Tokyo. Superintendent Otani mystery, Death of a Daimyo. This is the sixth in the series. A wealthy Japanese philanthropist is murdered thousands of miles from home. This is the one that takes place partially in England. We have the death ceremony here, and the death ceremony is the seventh novel, and that one is, they were basically published one a year for most of the 80s, with a couple gaps here and there. But the death ceremony was from 1985. A Japanese grandmaster is murdered during a sacred tea ceremony. This one's in really fine shape for the most part. Again, a Fawcett Crest book, although apparently published through Ballantine. Yeah, First Ballantine Books edition, October 1987. This is 1985. So I don't see Ballantine on here. It says Fawcett Crest, so I'm guessing I have the Fawcett Crest versions. So then after that, I don't have number 8 in the series, which is Go Gently Gaijin from 1986, but I do have the 9th one, Kimono for a Corpse from 1988. Murder at a fashion show sends Otani searching for a twisted pattern of killings. And then the 10th one is another one that I'm searching for currently. I don't have. That's The Reluctant Ronin from 1988. 2 of them were published in 1988 after skipping 1987. But I do have the 11th one, a haiku for Hanae. Hanae being, Otani's lovely wife. I'll just read this last one since it's the last one I'll read the blurb of this one. A religious experience on a return visit to the island of Awaji. Inspector Otani can't help but recall the curious people he met 20 years before when he was investigating the murder of an American missionary. The overly friendly stranger had been killed right in front of the Shinto shrine, but no one, including the incompetent local police chief and the disinterested Buddhist priest, had any idea why. Otani had started in at once to learn who knew the man and who would want him dead. It didn't take long for the resourceful inspector, so this is flashing back to when he was an inspector, not a superintendent, the highest position he could achieve in the police force pretty much. It didn't take long for the resourceful inspector to develop an impressive list of suspects and surprising clues. With a sly nudge from the spirit world, he began to piece together a murderous scenario that took its cue from an ancient Japanese fable and the modern interplay of passion and greed gone wild. Again, this has a map of Awaji Island there. And this one was published in 1989. And again, still Fawcett Crest, right? And that's the last I have currently, but there were two more published, The Bogus Buddha in 1990 and The Body War Brocade in 1992. Very fun series. I highly recommend checking this out if you're into that kind of police procedural mystery. You know, there's not a lot of violence and action in these, I guess, per se. There's lots of kind of subtle interplay between the characters, lots of very cogent observations of Japanese daily life, Japanese cultural aspects, and cultural ceremonies, etc. As you can tell from me reading you the little brief, summaries on the front of the paperbacks here. They often involve Buddhist shrines, tea ceremonies, bunraku, puppetry, lots of aspects of Japanese culture that keep them interesting, and a cool cast of characters. And Otani is a likable, although sometimes stern central figure, who makes sure to keep subtly in a very Japanese way, in the salary worker way, keeping his underlings in line, especially the sometimes following a wild hare Inspector Kimura. But a very, very fun series. I highly recommend these. So that does it for me for this video. Thanks for checking it out. If you have, please leave a comment if you've read these books before or are familiar with the Superintendent Otani series or any other books by James Melville, Roy, Peter Martin. I'd appreciate it. And thanks for watching. We'll talk to you again next time.